get the latest information on this man they call armed and dangerous. Chief Bruno?
Just before noon today, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office began receiving calls from a concerned citizen regarding a vehicle that was traveling in and out of the cemetery. The caller was able to provide the vehicle's tag number, which officers ran and determined that the vehicle was stolen. The citizen was also able to provide information that the suspects in the vehicle were armed with firearms. Officers had been in and out of the area several times attempting to locate the vehicle. Sergeant Nobles, J.C. Nobles, a 12-year veteran, at around 2 p.m. today, logged out in the area attempting to locate the vehicle. As he was driving into the cemetery, he observed the vehicle and the suspects, and he attempted to back out of the cemetery.
Bruno giving us a briefing on the situation right now.
He attempted to back out of the cemetery when the suspects saw him. The suspects ran towards the vehicle and began speeding out of the road, or down the road out of the cemetery. As they were exiting the cemetery, they attempted to ram Officer Nobles' police vehicle and ran him off of the roadway. Nobles gave chase of the suspect vehicle, and in about the 1800 block of Helena Street, they drove onto a dirt road and around the back of a residence. While on the dirt road, the suspect vehicle began fishtailing and lost control and struck a tree. The driver and the passenger exited the driver's side of the vehicle. As they were getting out, Sergeant Nobles noticed that the driver exited with a firearm in his hand. The suspect turned towards Sergeant Noble and pointed the firearm at him and then took off running. The passenger also exited with a firearm, but when he saw the officer, threw the firearm towards the front of the car. They began running through the yard, and Sergeant Noble gave chase. Running through the yard, Sergeant Noble fired his issued firearm, a Glock 22, 2 times, and the suspects continued running. As they exited the yard and towards Helena Street, the passenger began to run east, and the driver ran towards the west. Sergeant Noble kept his eye on the driver when he noticed that he crouched down near the corner of the house. He knew that this was the person that pointed the firearm at him earlier, and he saw that while the suspect was crouched down, he was turning towards him, and Sergeant Nobles was in fear for his life, and he fired his Glock weapon 2 more times. At that point, he observed the suspect go down. We are still working through the details. We don't know exactly which volley of shots may have struck the suspect. We do know that at this point in time, we've recovered 2 firearms at the scene.
Are you still looking for a man who's armed and dangerous?
There is a suspect that is still outstanding. We're working to identify who that individual is. So we're still working through that.
What about the condition of the other suspect that was shot?
The other suspect was transported to the hospital, and he was pronounced dead at the hospital.
Were any shots fired by any of the suspects at the officer?
At this point in time, we're not certain. We're still trying to work through that information. So we'll know more tomorrow. We're going to do a follow-up briefing tomorrow at 10:30 a.m.
Where was the driver's
JSO wrapping up this press conference right now.
The driver's weapon, it's in the scene. We're still trying to determine the exact location where the officer fired and all of that. So I'm still.
Was it near under his body?
I'm not going to elaborate on this time, but I should have more details tomorrow morning.
Do you have an age on the suspect? The one that's
No, ma'am. We're still working to positively identify the suspect and ensure that next of kin notification is made.
Were there any drugs or anything found in the car?
Not that I'm aware of. We're still working through that. I'm not even certain that we've processed it up to the vehicle yet.
That's the very latest on this active